Greetings. Today's talk focuses on the fact that Daimler Benz has now officially started the distribution of a fleet of electric vehicles in the greater Los Angeles area. I want to say almost adjacent to the Tesla facilities there at the Port of Oakland and the Port of Los Angeles. So we look forward to sort of taking apart the news development as to what happened, why, etc. We also take some time to take a quick look at the stock and where we're at currently, particularly with the upgrades, and finally just some cleanup items on a story that just came out that's kind of a bombshell, and I hope you guys will enjoy, regarding SpaceX and Elon Musk. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Behind me, you'll notice we're at a place called Catholic University in Washington, D.C. And if we have time, we'll likely show you more video of that. But for now, I'll stick to the topic at hand. Today's talk focuses, please remember to like and subscribe. We are on Patreon, could use your support there. And we appreciate any and all comments, particularly those supportive of Tesla. And don't mind dialogue, but if you hate Tesla, this is a bad channel for you. The first part of today's topic focuses on kind of what's become a favorite subject for our site, which is any and all truck updates, especially when those updates relate to electric semis, as well as the relationship between Daimler and Tesla. So what we're noting today is the fact that it was just announced, I guess, late October, that Penske Corporation and the Freightliner division of Daimler Benz have combined to start the first process of deliveries of what I believe is about 25 electric trucks to both the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach. These two ports are some of the busiest in the world. I believe Long Beach is, at least Los Angeles port, is number one in the United States. I would assume that something in Asia is probably number one. Now, one of the discussions we had two or three shows ago within the last week was the fact that it seems strange that the folks at Daimler were not delivering in a drayage solution situation, because when it comes to drayage, they can afford to pay more for trucks, and they wouldn't shy away from a $300,000 electric semi, because that's what those folks have been paying for electric vehicles to reduce their carbon footprint for quite a while. So buying something like that wouldn't be a big deal. So lo and behold, after we made that announcement, we were doing some research and found out that in fact they were going to be delivering, and they were going to be delivering in a drayage circumstance. Now, I want to say there are four surprises here. The first surprise that came to mind is when Daimler announced their intention through the Freightliner division to deliver a group of semi-trucks or 80,000-pound capable trucks in the drayage circumstance. This is a bit of surprise because Daimler has been meeting with a lot of customers regarding the future of trucking, and unlike Tesla, where there's kind of a spread out of who's been taking a look at the vehicles and where orders have been coming from, the process pursued by Daimler has been a little bit different in that they're concentrating all the vehicles pretty much in two locations. I guess it's a good thing. It is a surprise because the more customers that are exposed to it, the better chance those customers may want to order it once it's available. They also are able to start to develop capabilities, and it potentially freezes out new entrants like Tesla from introducing their products because the charging facilities will be set up, etc. So it's a bit of a surprise to see Daimler's decision to go entirely to just basically one customer. It's in two locations, but same type of customer, 30 miles from each other. Very, very strange, I think. And so that's a surprise. The second thing that's a surprise to me is something that I call teenager to adult problem. So what I mean by the teenager to adult problem is that Daimler/Mercedes-Benz has chosen a very interesting process here. Namely, they've skipped the stair-step process where you do, for example, Tesla has been doing cars for a long time successfully. They then took those battery solutions up into trucks, with the biggest difference being how much power that truck has and how much heat it generates. So this introduces a very interesting question mark, which is Daimler's aggressively going after the truck business because they're trying to protect their truck business, but it actually creates a problem, which is if you had no idea what you were doing when it came to cars and their battery solutions, why do you think trucks would be easier? Because the magnitude of the challenges is 4 or 5 times higher to manage things like heat, cold, thermal management. All these different elements come as you try to go to the larger vehicles. So this is a second surprise that sort of hit in general about Daimler, and in particular about what's going on with their truck solutions right now. The third surprise is that it was very strange to find Daimler/Freightliner deciding that they were going to deliver a vehicle that is currently not in their Portland, Oregon headquarter area. So, as you all know, the Freightliner division of Daimler has been around for many, many years, probably 100 years, was bought by Daimler within the last 20 years. And I seem to luck out once again and get a little helicopter action, but we shall continue. So what's going on is that basically there's port facilities nearby in a place called Washington and Seattle, and there are likely port facilities in Portland as well. So it's kind of strange, surprising that Daimler has not chosen to introduce these products in a nearby area. That way, if there are repairs, if there's monitoring that needs to be done by engineers, that can be done easily and responded to quickly. Instead, they've chosen to go, call it 1,500 miles south to the greater Los Angeles area to introduce products. Surprising, not hugely strange. Now, the next package of questions is, why do it in LA? The answer is, the number one port in the United States is one good reason to do so. The second reason to do it in LA is that, frankly, to have the folks at Tesla watching what Daimler's doing at the port, I really think is part of the reason why this was chosen. The third reason is that if there's any customer that you want to lock up, it would be the largest customer in the United States for a solution that you're trying to introduce. The issue, though, is if this goes badly, how's it going to look for a customer that you're trying to impress? The fourth thing that comes to mind here is the fact that Daimler's actually introducing a Class 7 and a Class 8 truck. The challenge that's shown up with the drayage solutions, which is moving freight around the port as well as short distances to warehouses not far from the port, it is kind of good on one hand, but in reality, the challenge with the battery packs when you're hauling at the highest level is the amount of weight that the freight can be carried at is half of what the regular semis can do because of how heavy the batteries are that Daimler is using in this solution. So I find it, on one hand strange and surprising, but on the other hand, it kind of makes sense that they're choosing to deliver a product in this space. The next thing that comes up is the fact that Daimler is showing signs of life. I think it's terrific that they have a solution that they're delivering, and I think it's terrific that they're showing life in an important segment that they control 40% of, particularly as Tesla with its solutions is lurking. The one question I would ask here is that in the case of Daimler, why wouldn't they build 3 or 4 trucks, have them all visit future customers so that customers can see they exist, drive them, have a sense for what their capabilities are, rather than just concentrating on 2 customers with Penske and another partner that are bringing them to those customers. Interesting point at issue is that it seems strange because, I guess there are a large number of customers they have who would be unhappy at having not seen the truck, but that further highlights the point of the fact that the truck, if it exists, if it's viable, should be visiting a number of locations that represent potential future buyers, and that's not occurring. Hence why we're bringing it up as a surprise, doesn't make sense move by Daimler Benz. The next question mark that pops up is we're seeing sort of the U.S. illustration of sort of German technology in this case, and we're also not seeing sort of Hamburg or other ports in Europe that are demonstrating these solutions either, which also suggests there is kind of, a nose thumbing situation going when it comes to looking at making sure both a potential customer in Los Angeles, the biggest in the area, combined with Tesla, knows that Daimler's a threat and serious about being a factor in the area. Now, the other footnotes on this is that, as we've said before, the folks at Daimler/Mercedes have indicated that these trucks are being given away as prototypes where there are no charges. The likely cost per truck is about $350,000 per vehicle. So, you guys can calculate the numbers. Let's say 10 times $350,000 is $3 million. We're talking 20 trucks. So $10 or $15 million for a company of Daimler's size, and how much they do is, I guess, not that big a deal. Maybe the people that go with the trucks to manage the situation might be a bigger issue. The next question that one has to cover is, what are we looking at on battery packs? And the first answer is that, based on the other Daimler vehicles, we believe that there's a modified SK Global pack there, where instead of having a minimum number of pouches, you have more pouches, and those pouches are cheaper to run, less weight, less cost, but they also don't handle heat very well. The other option that Daimler does have on the table is to use Samsung 18650 batteries. The reason why we think that they're not using those, even though I think it would be a better solution, is that they're about to come out with the new EQ product, and the EQ product is using the modified pouches from SK in Korea. So we would assume that because of that existing relationship, the amount of batteries they're getting from there, it makes more sense for them to port that over than to introduce a whole new solution that would take a whole bunch of engineering when it comes to the thermal management systems to put that in. So, sort of to close out this section, wanted to say congratulations to Daimler Benz on first arriving in the United States in more ways than just the Class 7 trucks that they've distributed to a few potential customers. Second thing we want to say is hopefully these things last, because the pack solution has not proven to be effective long term, even if they work short term. The thermal management challenges of a 18-wheeler or 80,000-pound truck can be pretty challenging. So we're hoping that these guys are able to find some success with their thermal management systems relative to this, so these trucks stick around for a while rather than kind of getting burnt out after a couple of years. The third thing we want to say is that, I just think that it's very strange to me that they're not I think it's strange that Daimler is not choosing to try to do initial testing trucks, both visiting a bunch of customers as well as a location that's close to the factory, so that would set up modifications or improvements on a continual basis until they have the battery capacity to be competitive in this space. So at minimum, though, they're not in the no trying zone, so there aren't any well, I guess there are other manufacturers. Toyota is in the space with solutions that are they're testing hydrogen trucks there with the Port of Los Angeles. BYD has an assembly facility about 50 miles south of Los Angeles, and are in the process of testing their drayage solution semi-trucks with the Port of Oakland and possibly with the Port of Los Angeles as well. So it's an important battleground, and we'll keep you posted on new news that we might learn about the situation. I'm choosing to use a thumbnail that shows sort of the drayage black truck juxtaposed against the trucking solution presented by Daimler, which includes, some aerodynamic elements that the drayage-focused Tesla Semi does not. So it's an interesting sort of juxtaposition of solution that folks are providing. The next thing I wanted to briefly mention, and I think you guys are going to have to crucify me for this, and that is that there's an article that just came out. We'll put a link to it, and it's called Dr. Elon and Mr. Musk. And so it's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde story, and I probably don't want to get into it because I know the anger level you guys bring up when I bring up stuff that's truthful, but it may not be flattering to Elon or to Tesla. The number one point that I did want to make from that article that's worth noting is that all of the employees at SpaceX have security clearances with the government of the United States. Those security clearances come with regular drug testing to ensure those individuals are not using drugs. Elon's decision to smoke marijuana while he was doing the interview a few weeks ago was a very interesting choice, because all of that is under review right now by the government. Because how can you have the CEO of the company smoking weed and using drugs while the testing program is supposed to catch individuals and rid them of the security clearances if they do drugs? I don't have an answer to it, but it shows another puzzling move by Elon regarding sort of managing things he knows that he shouldn't be doing, and he's doing it anyway, and it could be impactful of the future of him and his relationship with the government, SpaceX, etc. And it's more puzzling, surprising stuff to be considered and pondered, and I'll let you guys ride with that as you may. The final thing I wanted to cover today is that when I recently looked it up, and we're looking at options in Tesla right now, and the short interest in Tesla has dropped to about 22% and declining, meaning the number of people shorting the stock is declining rapidly as Tesla produces more Model 3 and was profitable. What I want to suggest today then is that I think the short interest will continue to drop as we head towards earnings about to come out, because we've seen a lot of Model 3s being delivered to customers, and therefore I think it's really bad news for those who think Tesla may not deliver record numbers. Our forecast of produced vehicles for the quarter will be about 65,000 vehicles, and therefore it'll be a record quarter on numbers, and they'll have plenty of cash around to both reinvest in the business as well as to pay down debt, and I think all of that is positive signs for the company. I have to admit, I have not seen any analyst that hasn't raised the price target for Tesla in recent weeks, and I think this is terrific, and I think there's going to be a blowout quarter, and it's a great time to get in on the stock if you can, because I think it will be very strong as we head into earnings. I'm not a registered rep, so please note that in that situation as well. Again, options come out on Friday of this week. Please note that those who have call options will likely get screwed, in that somehow the call options will suddenly move down just before the end of the day to put a lot of people's options underwater and making no money. And it's a pattern that we like to monitor, because it's interesting to note different things that are occurring that impact the stock, and a stock of all companies, but in this case Tesla, as we prepare for big market-moving news relative to number of cars produced and sold. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Just a reminder, we could use some help on Patreon. Please like and subscribe. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lahitraot, Hebrew, Ni hao ma, Chinese,
Khoda Hafez, Farsi, Farvel, Dutch. Also adios. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good. And thank you for joining us. We look forward to your comments based on what's going on with the Tesla and its competition with Daimler on the semi front. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now. And I'm going to take you guys out with a little bit of travel here at Catholic University. You can't see it very well through the trees, but kind of the highlight. When the Pope was here, this was kind of the focus chapel that he spent time at, and you know, as you can see, the basilica is very famous. I'm going to take a yes, nice. Have a great day. Thanks for visiting with us.